My first question to you is, what was your first job in the movie and TV industry?
Wow. I when I moved to LA, I was 19, and I got a commercial agent, this guy named John Pierce, pretty quickly. He represented, I was just lucky, but he represented people like Aaron Paul and Scoop McNairy for commercials. And my first audition was the very first audition he sent me on was a music video for this band called Better Than Ezra, and I got the music video. So that was my first thing I ever did. And then my first TV thing was an episode of Cold Case where I played a male prostitute named Valentino. And then my first film was this independent film that I don't want to shout out because I don't want anybody to have to see it.
Hey, I mean, I love that the fact that you shout out the prostitute thing, but not the other thing. It's perfect. You know what I mean? I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Moving on to why we're here today. You play Duke in the upcoming film Private Property. What attracted you to this role?
I would say to begin with, the writer-director, Chad Harbold. We'd made a movie called Long Night, Short Mornings together. That was one of my favorite experiences, and I think the movie's brilliant. He's been a partner. I mean, he's somebody that I would just work with him the rest of my life if I could. But he reached out to me after he saw the re-release of this movie. It had been a lost film for, I don't know, 50 years, whatever it was, and said that there was something really interesting here. So he sent me the script, and we luckily had a couple years of going back and forth and sort of working on this sort of updated version of this movie. I really love the duality of this character. I love his hustle, and the fact that he's sort of a scrappy dude who's made it to this point in his life somehow, even though he's sort of got criminal tendencies. It was one of the challenges of making the movie was separating the first half Ben/Duke to the second half. And Chad was really helpful in sort of pulling me back if I was giving too much away, or pushing me towards a sort of darker version in the second half.
Yeah, what I think I loved about your character is you have this kind of mystique about you within this villainous role, but there's a lot kind of going on throughout this process of the film. What is it kind of like playing in that kind of, villainous style role that you were in?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only job I could have is being an actor. I really don't see myself doing anything else. And if I wasn't an actor, sometimes I think I might just be a criminal. So, it was just sort of exploiting my own my own terrible fantasies of what would happen if I was jobless here. But I grew up in a place that I feel is very duplicitous as well. I'm from this place called Ukiah in Northern California, where it's half sort of farmers and country boys and women and half sort of hippies. And so there's always been this sort of split that I felt in my own life that I think was really helpful for me to sort of bring into this role. I think that, I understand being a survivor. I understand sort of like, when you're pushed to the edge and you have nowhere to go. And I think that what's interesting about this particular moment in this person's life is that he kind of falls a little bit for this woman, and that's what turns things wrong. I think he's been able to sort of shut it off forever until he meets this particular woman. And this is his, we won't give it away, but yeah.
Speaking of the woman, Kathryn, who is played by Ashley Benson, what was it like working with her in this project?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was the third movie that we've done together. So we've been friends for years and really close buddies. So, just having that trust together was really important. I was sort of, because I know her so well, I was like, gosh, are we going to rehearse? How are we going to do this? And she showed up and she was so great. I may be biased, but I think this is the best role she's ever had, or best role she's ever played. It was just great to have that trust together, and sort of be able to lean in on each other. There's this sort of dancing scene where it was very, had to be very choreographed with the camera movement. And then there's sort of this big moment that happens within that dance. And you know, it could have felt a little bit stilted with anybody else, but the fact that we really trust each other and believe in each other and know each other was just so helpful. And I was just so blown away by her performance in this. I just flabbergasted how great she is.
Yeah, because there's a lot of vulnerability between you two characters within this movie. So you're right. It must be nice to kind of have that safe space with somebody else. You know, your scene partner, your entire project here is based on a lot of vulnerable scenes between the two, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's a lot of times you get a call and you go to set and then you're shaking hands with the person to play your wife that you've been married to for 10, whatever it is. Um, and this one was interesting because, you know, though they don't know each other well, they're both seeking something and they both see something in the other person that, whether it's a mirage or whether it's real, has to immediately cause this reaction. And so the fact that we did know each other, I think, did lend itself to that sort of seeing something in the other person that they didn't see in other people in some way, you know.
All right, one last question before we go. Do you have any upcoming projects you can tell us about?
Well, I hear you're in Nashville.
I am.
I've got a movie called Torn Hearts, I think, or I think Tattered Hearts or Torn Hearts. Can't remember the new title, but it takes place in Nashville and I play a country singer. And that comes out, I think, on the 20th of May. And I've got, I don't know if you see this poster right here, but
Yeah.
the thing called Love, it's in Spanish. And that's one of my favorite movies that takes place, you know, in Nashville about young country singers with River Phoenix. So that I've got a movie called The Old Way with Nick Cage, this Western that I think comes out end of the year. And I've made this little movie called Hellbent on Boogie that was great. And we're trying to finish that now. So I've got a bunch of stuff. But Private Property, you know, comes first.